You look it's going to be very difficult to describe the way you look to the audio listeners of this podcast, High Priest of Oilers Magic, but you look like what I imagine like a Lord Byron or as such would look like if he existed today. If he was walking the earth, like Lord Byron would look something like that. You got a little bit of the Mark Twain about you, a little bit. If he was into like checkered tops instead of like all white suits, with like the curled hair and the mix with the gray and white mixed in.
Yeah,
that's quite something. Why don't we get started? So, amidst the broken memories of your failed ambitions and paradoxical, mutually exclusive life goals, adjacent to all of your hopes, dreams, fears, and pangs of loss, pangs of nostalgia for a greater golden era or a golden era yet to be. Between the pit of your fears and the summit of your knowledge exists Handkerchief Dynasty, the 19th Best Oilers podcast. I am, as always, your
Hello.
Joined by my good friend and Holy of Holies, the High Priest of Oilers Magic, can be seen often.
The holiest.
Yelling at the skies. Holiest of Holies. You know, I had a nice message from a patron today. He said something along the lines of, this podcast is more important to his spiritual well-being or as such, I'm paraphrasing, more important to his spiritual well-being than I could possibly know, which is kind of a beautiful and complimentary and also very terrifying thing, you know? As someone who's dabbled in and involved himself, inserted himself into the spiritual lives of his flock, what is it like to take on the responsibility of being partially, in some way, responsible for someone's spiritual well-being? Is that is just a paralyzing fear? Do you just, spray and pray, so to speak? What do you do?
I mean, it's not something that keeps me up at night. Let me put it to you that way. It's not something I lose sleep over. You know what I mean?
That's legit.
I mean, when you hear stuff like that as a high priest, I'm speaking as a high priest, I mean, you can't take it personally, right?
Yeah.
You can't let it go to your head. You can't
Definitely don't let it go to your head. Definitely don't let it go to your head.
It's nice to hear, though.
Yeah, it's nice. Definitely nice to hear. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. A shout out to Daniel, I believe it was. So we're looking at, we got this Winnipeg game in the rear view. It's kind of interesting, actually, because, we've been talking about the kind of slog, the death march, the lack of a joie de vivre in this final stretch of the regular season here. It's interesting, though, because, in this COVID world, I feel as though, especially right now, I got a lot of like hesitations in terms of how I feel about them playing right now. I don't think they should even really be playing. But at the same time, NHL hockey is still a welcome respite from the B movie going on all around me in just like the regular world. I saw there was like this anti-mask protest that like goes by where I live like every weekend. That's just like fascinating to me. I've been listening to podcasts on like these like online conspiracy groups and stuff, and it's just like a wild time. So I can watch a little bit of NHL hockey and just forget about all that shit. But I did find like once we opened the scoring with that Barry tally, I experienced like the most joy in that moment, and then after that I was like, oh, okay, let's just wrap this up. Let's just go. Let's get out of this alive without any further transmissions.
Well, I think it's just, I mean, the Vancouver thing was seems like it was kind of an isolated incident. So I was very concerned with the Oilers having to play the Vancouver Canucks for everyone involved, but the league wisely canceled that game. So now I'm kind of like, oh, well, let's go. So the 14 games feel like less of a death march now that I feel as though there's a less of a chance of it becoming a literal march to their death. You know what I mean? Now it's just kind of like, well, now I just kind of want to get to the playoffs for selfish reasons because it's the best part.
I mean, it's interesting because like I feel as though the stretch run is a little just generally a lot more stretch runny than usual, like than it is this year. Like the stretch run this year is like the least stretchiest stretch run of like all time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's not as many teams involved, and it kind of feels as though it's like um, pretty much set, sort of.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, yeah,
Plus,
but
we've been playing these
that's
same teams all year already, so I mean,
can you
it's like it's
imagine?
pretty played.
Can you imagine there was like, I mean, when did the league start? In like the 19, I don't know, 20s or something like that. So for that entire time, like all the original six time, like this is what it was like, right? And there's like 14 games left on the schedule, and those teams would be like, oh, like, do we really have to play the Chicago Blackhawks again? Like, they're out of it.
I like our chances against Winnipeg. It's been a bit of a debate on radio. I mean, what are we now? We're 5-2, I think, against them.
Yeah, but they've all been close games.
Yeah, this game was a close game up until us getting the opening goal. Like it was a real
Yeah.
like battle, real like play, almost like a playoff style, like chess match, like a game of tennis. It was like watching a game of tennis, but on in a hockey rink.
Yeah,
And
which
instead of
is
tennis players, like a whole bunch of hockey players and shit.
yeah. Yeah, it was the Oilers looked ready to play playoff hockey from the drop of the puck. They like the Jets got they were physical that first period. The Jets played them very physically, and the Oilers didn't look cowed by any of that. So it made me happy to see them play a game that was essentially, I mean, it's not the playoffs, but it's getting to the point in the season where these games are going to start to feel like playoff games, because these will be your opponents. And the Oilers looked engaged with that style of play. It was good to see. Made me happy to see that they all looked ready to go, ready to get a little scrappy.
It did start to feel like in the time off they had found some time to like maybe drill down into some like video, or I don't know what it was, practices, but like they seemed gelled, like they seemed a little rusty to start, but they definitely seemed like they were
I didn't think so.
they were in, I mean, only a tiny bit, but like they were ready for this like defensive stalemate that like the first half of the game really was,
Yeah, but I mean, that being said, they also got amazing chances. Like Yamamoto and Chiasson both had breakaways. Like that game could have been 3-0 after the first period, almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were. They looked really good. They looked really good again. Mike Smith, amazing again.
Mike Smith is
like I said, man, he's going to get Vezina. He's going to get Vezina looks if he keeps playing like this. Like,
who would have thought? Like when we signed him last offseason, who would have thought that he would supplant? Well, I mean, no, I mean, obviously, but you have access to the sacred entrails and the sacred bones of bonerism, so it's like
guilty as charged.
Yeah. So I mean, when you have like a third eye and can see the future, it's not exactly as though you get that much credit, When Biff used the almanac to become a millionaire, I wanted to ask you though, so I was having this conversation today. I thought you would enjoy this. So I heard someone say, because you end up having the same conversations. I was looking at a sunset. It was nice, nice sunset. And someone said, man, I just can't wait for this whole Hulk Hogan thing to be over, And I was like, but they hadn't said Hulk Hogan. I just heard Hulk Hogan. It turned out they had said whole COVID.
Oh.
This whole COVID thing. And I heard Hulk Hogan. And like, it was just such a wonderful fantasy for like 5 minutes or 5 seconds to trick myself into like extending that moment where I was like, maybe they are worried about this. So maybe there's something going on with Hulk Hogan right now that like is really on their mind. And they're like, my life is on pause until this whole Hulk Hogan thing is over.
Well, Hulk Hogan is kind of there's something going on with Hulk Hogan.
Really? What the fuck is
Well,
going
sort
on with
of.
Hulk Hogan?
I mean, WrestleMania just happened, and Hulk Hogan's kind of like a world class dink, right?
Right.
At this point. So during WrestleMania, Hulk Hogan was featured prominently, and he's kind of cropped up more than people would like to see him crop up in, various episodes.
How much is that? What's the ideal amount of Hulk Hogan in WrestleMania?
Like maybe like you see him in like the opening credits to the evening.
By the way, one of my favorite jokes in Groundhog Day, one of my favorite films, is also features one of the two scenes that features a very young, almost embryonic Michael Shannon,
Right.
Mr. Intensity.
Yeah.
King of the Chicago theater acting world, lover of the TV show Dr. Katz Professional Therapist, man amongst men. He's part of the couple where he's like, oh, you're gonna break up with him because he's just in. You see them early on, but then at the very end, Bill Murray's just like, he gives them tickets to WrestleMania and they freak out. They're like, WrestleMania, no way, because he knows what to do for everybody, right? So he gets them WrestleMania tickets, and they're just like, and then there's this awkward moment where Michael Shannon's character like hugs Andy McDowell a little bit too intimately or whatever, and makes his fiance jealous. But,
right.
That's maybe one of my favorite jokes in that he gets them WrestleMania tickets and they fucking love him for it.
Yeah, right. That is a great part. What do you think about Yamamoto's game lately? What are you hoping Yamamoto brings to the playoffs? Remember what happened? I was thinking about it tonight. Remember in the playoffs last year, he came in guns a-blazing and he took all those like whack penalties. Remember, it was like a parade to like he had no gauge of how to properly
play playoff hockey.
Yeah, he had no idea. What do you think he's gonna? Because I think that was a valuable lesson. If there's a way that Yamamoto can turn it up and stay out of the box, could be a great playoff guy. In terms of energy, energy.
If Yamamoto was like a die, like a dice, if like a single die, it would only roll a 7 to like 12. So you're getting anything from serviceable, decent, legitimate NHL like middle six, second line player, to like fucking like serious gamer, holy shit, man, run for the hills. Because he's still young, he's still developing, and just think about like the trials and tribulations and the twists and turns, the development of any player, especially with him. There was this moment where like he put a big piece together, and it's entirely possible that he will put another big piece or two together and really like become a really special player, but we're not there yet. Like I still am a little bit I think there's a little bit of a sophomore slump this year because I think, opposition teams know who he is now. So he's got to get better and better, but I'm not expecting tons out of him in the playoffs. If he puts up like, say 2 or 3 points in the first round, I'll be happy.
It's funny. Like, I bet you the sophomore slump is greatest for a type of player that's small and like gritty. And that's how they got their goals and got their points, because that takes everyone by surprise. When you see a small guy, you probably assume he'll be like small, but Yamamoto's anything but small.
It is interesting, actually. Like the small hockey player who doesn't play small is like a real aberration in nature. Like it's like it's like coming across like a unicorn or like the Loch Ness monster or like an Englishman that isn't a cunt. It's like,
right.
Just joking, obviously. I love you English people. Thank you. It's like, yeah, because people obviously all last year they were like, oh, this guy, they like skate. They're skating up to him. They're like, is this some junior kid? Like how much does this guy weigh? And then before they know it, he's like dangling and dazzling and lifting sticks and like digging into the corners. And getting shots on net and making nice passes. Like,
but now everybody knows. Yeah,
he's Kyler Yamamoto now.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was like Kyler Yamamoto, prospect or suspect.
Right.
By the way, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I was listening to some expert high level commentary from Hockey Night in Canada on Darnell Nurse, and the word poise came up. I wanted to
Poise.
ask you, do you think if the word poise never entered the English language, if NHL hockey could exist? Like, is it possible that like on the foundation of hockey itself is the like one of at least the four main pillars is the word and concept of poise?
Absolutely.
Poise counts. Poise.
Oh, yeah. That's a great observation.
Yeah.
Great observation. That'd be a great drink. That'd be a great drinking game. It'd
be a great drinking game to end up in the emergency room with like alcohol poisoning. Yeah, get your stomach pumped, because it would take about like 3 seconds before like Scott Oak or whoever the fuck else. I mean, who was it? I think it was Kelly Rudy. Yeah. I like how everyone's like noticing how good Darnell Nurse is, but he's definitely having like a hell of a season.
Oh,
like look at him. Look at him putting these pieces together, you know, like, and for a defenseman it takes a little longer, but like Yamamoto might be a totally different player in like 2 years or 18 months. I mean, for better or worse.
I think that if he can find a way to stay out of the box and bring the same energy he brought to the qualifiers to the playoffs this year, I think he's really going to put a stamp on the first round and a bit of a stamp on himself as well.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I can just see the playoffs, success in the playoffs really helping his growth. I mean, that would help any player's growth, but especially a player like Yamamoto, is such an energy player. You know what I mean? If he can figure out a way to like thrive in that environment where everyone's sort of like up to his gear, then yeah. I would like to look back. Like I'm curious now that like what the second year for like smaller players was like for, you know, your top small players throughout history. I wonder if that sophomore slump was common.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, because it is like a real surprise. It's like
yeah.
It's like signing up for like a cell phone plan that like doesn't just like completely destroy your like your life force, you know?
Yeah.
Or I don't know, a birthday dinner that like didn't go awry, you know, like something.
Yes.
It's really rare. Yeah. It's a very rare thing.
What about they played such a great game. You know who was playing a little bit nasty tonight, which I really love to see, was Leon. Did you notice that? Leon got he's decked guys the last few games, just like hammered guys on the boards. And tonight it was in the third period, but somebody took a shot at him going into Winnipeg's zone on the boards, and then he gave it back. And then as they were skating away, he gave them like another shot, like an extra like fuck you shot. I think that other teams see Connor McDavid as unflappable, but I think they see Leon Draisaitl as possibly flappable. And it's great to see Leon.
Yeah,
and it's great to see
he's completely unflappable. He's at least as equally I mean, he's maybe has like Connor McDavid's 99 to 100% unflappable. Leon's like 98%. He's right there, slightly more. Like he'll have that chip on his shoulder when pushed. You know.
Yes.
Which I like. It's good.
Yeah, of course, and it's great to see him give it back. Well, I think it's that other teams see Connor McDavid. We know, and I'm sure other teams know too, but just in comparison to a guy who's completely unflappable, like a robot, like Connor, although he plays nasty too, but he never seems to get, I've rarely seen him lose his cool except with himself. You know what I mean? But Leon, I think they see him as, in comparison to the unflappableness of McDavid, as a guy who you might be able to flap.
Yeah.
So he gets a lot of it. He gets a lot of flapping, and it's nice to see him give flap as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good observation. What a special player. Like, it's so funny because, you know, because of Connor, it's like we can never appreciate Draisaitl as much as we should, because we also have Connor McDavid. It's like Draisaitl is a fucking like future Hall of Famer for sure.
Oh,
like
absolutely,
Garen fucking Teed.
Absolutely,
Garen fucking Teed, as is Connie, obviously.
Yes.
But it's like, man, like fucking 71 points, 63 points for Draisaitl. You know, Kane is 7 points back. Marner is 9 points back. Austin Matthews is 10 points back of Leon.
Yeah.
It's like we're so blessed, to use a well-worn term.
Let me ask you this. Here's an interesting question. How many Oilers, if there was an all-star game that had happened this year, how many Oilers do you think would have made, say in this weird shortened season even? There was an all-star game.
4 definitely deserve, 2 for sure, and then 2 more deserve consideration, Nurse and Smith for sure.
I would say 3 for sure. Actually, you know what? I would say 4 for sure. The guy who's leading, Mike Smith is in there for sure, as far as I'm concerned. Darnell Nurse has the most goals, right, for a defenseman, or he's right there,
Nurse,
top 2.
Yeah, his ticket was punched a long while ago.
Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. So 4 Oilers, I think, would have made the. That's amazing.
Yeah, totally.
I don't even think last year that was a situation that the Oilers. That's crazy. It's a better team this year. There's no question.
Yeah, you know, it's it'll be really interesting to see how Kulikov fits in.
Cool DK. When does he?
He's like at least a week away. Yeah.
So where is he slotted to play? Because you know what? So what are our pairings right now? Nurse and Barry.
Yeah.
Jones and Bear, which is a combination
which is
like.
the third pairing, basically. Yeah. And
do you like
Larson,
that combination?
It's Larson Russell, right? His second pairing.
Yeah.
So I'm not crazy. I'm not too super enamored with Jones Bear, to be honest. But like it's a work in progress.
So do you think it would be Kulikov in, Jones out, because Bear stays in, right?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do, because they could play him with Larson, they could play him with Bear. I don't know, man. And then also Slater Cuckoo is going to come back from IR soon too.
Yeah, isn't that like he's
coming
coming
back? To have.
He's coming back sooner than expected, is he not?
Yeah.
Like he was supposed to be done for the season, wasn't he?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah.
I seem to recall when that happened that it was like he was out, like he was done. His season's over.
Maybe they injected him with like stem cells or something. He's like a Superman now.
Yeah. Maybe.
Why don't we start the wind-up procedure, though? Have to be a short one tonight. It's a shame because of all this plaid and this scarf / open collar combination is much better than
not a scarf. It's a
it's a collar. I like it. Yeah, fashion. Like I think you definitely would give Strudwick a run for his money. I think with the sartorial sciences a little bit, and on the dance floor. And actually, I think like as an NHL defenseman, I think you could give him a run for his money too. Because you're so mouthy. I bet you would have been able to flap Strudwick.
I was the worst. I think if I would have kept playing, I could have made it just on my back talk alone. My trash game was like so cruel. It was cruel.
It's the same way you can like win a war with psychological warfare alone,
It was nasty.
Or make a pump a stock, it's like all the same thing, you just got to really be, the cruelty is the point.
It was gross.
High priest of Oilers magic.
No, I kept it clean. I was just very, it was a big part of my game.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Please visit us at patreon.com/Handkerchief Dynasty or on Twitter at HandkerchiefDY1, or the High Priest of Oilers Magic is at High Priest Oil. Our sister show, Night Rule, is at Pod Rule. And you know what? Your hopes and dreams are lying just in front of your very feet right now. So just feel free to walk forward, either into, onto, beside, contiguous to those dreams. Don't step on those dreams, though. That's one thing you don't want to do. Stepping on dreams is like stepping on pizza. It's just a damn shame. That's actually probably my favorite moment in Thelma and Louise, when Harvey Keitel tells him, "Stir you're stepping in your pizza." Remember that?
No, I don't.
That's what's his name? What's that actor? He plays the husband. You know him.
I don't know. No, you know what? I've seen
the villain in Happy Gilmore.
Oh, Shadow Stevens.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's his name.
Yeah, no, you were a fan of him. You've talked him up to me before. Yeah. It was after you had inhaled the Sibylic smokes. Remember?
No, I don't.
When we were in the Greek islands, or we thought we were in the Greek islands.
Oh yeah,
Turned out
right.
to be a very not a very funny joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never go with accretion to a second location. I'll tell you that much right now. Okay. Just a bit of advice. Okay, well, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll check in. We got another game coming up in a few days here, and we will look forward to that. So enjoy your evening, and we'll talk real soon.
So long. Adios.
Adios.